This video is about happiness. Specifically, this is the introduction to my full-length premium program, 7 Steps to Happiness. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about how the study of spirituality and learning the technology of identifying and clearing subconscious blocks can help you to be happier every moment of every day for the whole rest of your life. So if you're interested, keep watching. You're in the right place. I am Brent Phillips. I am the author of this program, and I'm going to talk to you for just a couple minutes before we get into the meat of it. So a couple things I want you to know. First of all, I am a software engineer and a scientist, right? I never meant to be a woo-woo person. I'll talk more a little later about my story, but I experienced a horrific life meltdown in my 20s and met a healer and experienced a miracle that gave me my life back. And I've spent the last 20 plus years devoting all this big brain of science and engineering to understanding the masters, reverse engineering, energy healing, higher consciousness, law of attraction, prayer, these sorts of things, right? With the goal of creating a simple, no-nonsense system of powerful tools that regular people just like you and me can use to change our lives. This specifically is my major product release, 7 Steps to Happiness. And I want to talk to you for just a couple minutes about what it is and how you can get the most value out of it. Remember, this is the introduction to the program. So if you're here, great. This is the thing you want to watch first, right? After you finish this, I'm going to be releasing to my YouTube channel all 7 steps over the next 7 weeks, 1 a week. And you're going to be getting the full uncut versions of all 7 steps right here on YouTube. So make sure you click like and subscribe if you haven't already. Take a moment, smash that button, right? Hit the little bell so you get notifications. Awesome. Very cool. And I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about what this program is and how you can get the most value out of it. So this is, again, the introduction to 7 Steps to Happiness. This is a full-length premium program, meaning for me, I have not released anything in over 4 years. This is it. It took me over 4 years and a small fortune to create this. And my major programs, including this one, are always divided into 2 halves. Half for the conscious mind, half for the subconscious mind. Why? That's what works. If you only address the conscious mind, your results won't be as good. You'll get some, but they'll be less, right? If you only address the subconscious mind, you'll get some results, but not as much. I want to do both. So we have half the program, which is lectures. That's all the content for your conscious mind. Ideas, paradigms, tricks, tips, secrets, solutions, processes, right? All that's in the conscious piece. The second half of the program is for the subconscious. They have encoded subconscious block clearings. I have a really cool technology I've developed called the Formula for Miracles technology. It's a patent pending process of encoding audios so they will actually clear subconscious blocks just by listening. Really cool technology. And so what you're getting right here on YouTube is all 7 steps, the lecture programs uncut for free. And here's how it worked. I was planning on releasing this through your typical online funnel, right? I was going to build a webinar and a sales page and emails and chatbots and Facebook ads and all that stuff, right? That's a part of my business. And this is my only major release in over 4 years. So this is a big deal to me. But when I was going to release it, I decided to change course. I'm not going to sell it through a funnel for $400. I'm going to give you over half of it for free through YouTube. And if you really like what you're getting for free, I think it would be awesome if you want to buy the rest of it, but no pressure, right? So you're getting all 7 steps, all the lectures, uncut, everything for the conscious mind right here for free. This is the introduction, right? Listen to this first. After this, I'm going to be releasing all 7 steps, 1 video a week. And you will get all of it, right? All 7 steps, everything for the conscious mind. What I'm not giving you for free on YouTube is the second half of the program, which is for the subconscious. Specifically, they are subconscious clearing programs created with an audio technology. It's a patent pending process I call the Formula for Miracles technology. And it's this really cool technique I developed where I can clear your subconscious blocks just by having you listen to audios. So that is not included here because there's a lot more setup and training required. If you enjoy the free part and you want to get the full program, that would be awesome. I would greatly appreciate it. I think you'll love it. It also has some other bonuses like the trauma clearing program you can use, a lot of other cool stuff. It's got copies of my ebooks, trial coupons for my members program, lots of cool stuff. But don't worry about that. If you ever decide you want to check out the full version, just go to the description. There it is. So last thing I want to tell you before we jump into it is that this was originally developed as an audio program. And so we have little videos I've made for the beginning and the end, like I'm talking to you right now. This is going to go away in a minute. The majority of the intro and the 7 steps is an audio program. That's how I developed it, right? But I'm going to put something here for you to look at. So you'll see some static slides and some stock footage. Just know there's not much to see. It's meant to listen to. So if you want to watch, that's fine. But if you're just listening, if you're on a walk, riding the bike at the gym, whatever, that's fine. It's intended just to listen to. All right, so that's all I got to say for right now. Would love it if you let me know feedback. What do you think of this? Is this helping you? Are you learning something? Are you becoming happier? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to strive to personally respond to every single comment. So here we go. This is the introduction to 7 Steps to Happiness. Hello, this is Brent Michael Phillips, and welcome back to 7 Steps to Happiness. This is lecture presentation program number 5 on discovering the real you. Because this is a lecture presentation program, no special instructions. Relax, get comfortable, and dig right in. This has a complement program, block clearing program number 5, which is encoded with the Formula for Miracles technology. We'll give you the instructions for that when you listen to it. So let's dig in. How do we discover the real you? I actually want to start off with a little bit of a warning. The program here, this lecture number 5, is more advanced in some ways than the others. At the end of the last lecture presentation number 4, we talked a little bit about the 3 generations of consciousness technology. The first generation being your typical law of attraction and positive thinking processes. The second generation being different kinds of hypnosis and energy healing modalities allow you to make powerful and rapid changes in the subconscious mind. But then we get into the third generation. That's awakening. That's the quantum field. That's this divine energy, the truth of you, the nature of God and life, and how we're all connected and how it really works. So I want to warn you right now that this material is advanced. It is likely to be the most advanced and most sophisticated self-improvement material you've ever been exposed to. And it is phenomenally powerful, but it does have a steeper learning curve. So it has the potential to make the biggest changes in your life of anything included in 7 Steps to Happiness. But it is also the most difficult to access. So if you don't get it all on the first listen, please don't give up. I will be shocked if you get it all on the first listen. Now, maybe if you've been through 30 Days to Awakening and you've been through my series of weekend intensives and you're part of my Awakening Intensive Mastermind, okay, you might get it all on one listen. But for everybody else, please don't give up. This is really advanced stuff. It's hard to get, and it may take you multiple listens over time before it really sinks in. But again, it is incredibly powerful and transformative, and that's why I'm giving it to you right now. Just know that the challenge of discovering the real you is formidable, and there's many dedicated spiritual seekers that have literally spent their entire lives searching to find the real us and not finding it. I call it awakening the real you. And when I say awakening, I'm not referring to learning about New Age things. There's nothing wrong with that. I do a lot of that here in this program, right? Muscle testing, subconscious recoding, there's a lot of that. But this is really a different beast. It's not about being woke in the current jargon. Nothing to do with that. It's not about learning how to access intuition or do healings or communicate with angels or any of that. Again, that's all good stuff. But this is its own thing. This is awakening. It has nothing to do with those other things. What awakening is simple. It is the process of recognizing and coming to 100% crystal clarity on exactly what you are. What is this you that's up in your head, that has ideas and makes decisions and takes actions and has experiences? What exactly is that? That's what awakening is. That's why I call this program Discovering the Real You. So let's take your understanding of life, the universe, and everything up a couple notches, maybe to a whole new level. I want to introduce a concept to you. It's a simple model of consciousness. And this was originally developed by Carol Ruth Knox, who was a Christian mystic. And she divided the human spiritual journey into three primary levels of consciousness. We will call them the victim, the victor, and the vehicle. And really, it describes the process by which human consciousness develops. We all start in the victim consciousness, and then we wake up at some point with self-empowerment teachings to become a victor. And then through the process of awakening, we can become the vehicle. And so a full description of this is better found in my programs like 30 Days to Awakening or my Secrets for Higher Dimensional Living Intensive. But I want to cover the basics right now. The basics is this. When you are a victim, you think that things outside of you have all the power. That you think, oh, I'm unhappy because I have a crappy job, or I was born poor, or I live in the wrong city, or my mother, my boss, my wife, my husband, my kids, my neighbors, whoever are making me miserable. That's victim energy. Don't worry, that's not you. Victims do not get programs like this. They don't think they'll work. They think it's nonsense. They think it's a waste of time or money or whatever. So don't worry. You are not a victim if you're listening to this. But it's likely you're a victor. The victor is the second level of consciousness we enter into. And as the victor, you learn to take responsibility for your life and take action to try to improve your circumstances. So as the victor, we grow up, we get an education, we get a job, we make money, we buy things, we form relationships. All these things are aspects of the victor, and they're not wrong or bad. It's just what they are. The trouble with our current world is we don't see beyond the victor. We tend to think that, oh, gee, he who dies with the most toys or the most money wins. Not really, because there's a third stage of consciousness which transcends the victor. It's called the vehicle. And as the vehicle, we discover the truth of ourselves. You find the real you hiding in there. And we see the difference between the real you and the ego mind, the false I. And that's the trap I want to help break you out of right here. The real you is not what you think it is. The real you has nothing to do with a mind or a body or a soul or a name or a bank account or a role in life. Those are all things that describe the ego. As the vehicle, you discover the real you through awakening. And then you become simply a vehicle through which the divine experiences reality. And that may sound a little esoteric, but this is important. Because if you are serious about breaking through to the higher levels of consciousness and happiness, you can't do it as a victim, right? That's almost impossible. As a victor, you can make progress, but there's only so far you can go. Kind of like saying that, you know what, I can get around to some extent on my skateboard, but there's only so far I can go, right? I'm not going to travel to Las Vegas or New York or Tokyo on my skateboard, right? So worth doing. And a lot of this program is victor related, and there's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, I want to encourage you to graduate to the state of vehicle consciousness, where you surrender the content of your life and are simply present and focused on what is and how you relate to it, rather than just trying to manipulate. But the victor behaviors continue. This is a subtle thing, that the victor and the vehicle from the outside look almost the same. Because vehicles have jobs and families, and they pay taxes, and they have medical insurance, and they go to Christmas parties and all those things. But their focus is on the inside, and there's little resistance. And so a full exploration of how we wake up is beyond the scope of this program, but check out 30 Days to Awakening or my weekend intensive if you really want to wake up fully. But I can give you plenty right now to help you start to break out of these lower levels of consciousness and start to transcend that victor state and blend into the vehicle, little by little, right here as you listen. So I want to offer you another teaching from my late mentor. He often would say this. He would say, if you woke up tomorrow with amnesia, you'd be fine. And that's a really powerful teaching. What it means is this. Maybe right now you think your life sucks for various reasons. Maybe you lost your job, or you don't have enough money, or you're in a bad relationship or a bad living situation, or it struggles with your health, or whatever it may be, right? Lots of things that can happen in life. But the only reason you think your life sucks is because you're comparing what you're experiencing to an alternate reality in your head of what you think your life should be like. That's the reason we suffer. Most of us are not living in the present. Most of us are living in the past and the future.
letting the belief systems formed in the past create a reality now in the future. And that's unfortunate because it brings enormous suffering and stress with it. True presence allows you to escape the tyranny and the traps of the mind. Now, I admit that's really easy for me to say, much harder to do. So how do we increase presence? How do we get out of our head? How do we get out of the past and the future and start living in the present moment? How do we escape the tyranny of the mind? So here's how. If you understand what you truly are, and you can make a distinction between what you truly are versus what you thought you were. And just so you know, what you thought you were was the ego. You thought you were a mind, a body, a name, a gender, a personality, a family, a bank account. All those stories and narratives that you thought was you aren't you. When you find the real you, it opens the door to the possibility of being happier all the time, no matter what, for the whole rest of your life. Discovering the real you is how we get to the highest levels of consciousness. That is the process of awakening. And so back to the levels of consciousness, a victim becomes a victor when they discover self-empowerment, when they take responsibility for their life. So Oprah's pretty good at this. A lot of her show was about helping victims become victors. Dr. Phil with his tough love. Institutions like the United States Army and Marine Corps, they take people who are on a track to victimhood and turn them into victors, teaching them accountability, responsibility, skills, abilities, knowledge. That's not what we're talking about here. You're at a much higher level if you're listening to this program. I'm here to do two things simultaneously. One is to help you become a better victor. So a lot of this program is about becoming a better victor. The rest of it is transcending the victor state to become a vehicle. Awakening is a graduation from the victor to the vehicle. And if you do that, this is where the huge changes can happen. This is how you can release attachment. This is how you can be present. This is how you can stay calm and serene, even content, even when everything's going to hell all around you. Is it hard? Yeah, it is. Of course it is. All the things that are really worthwhile in life have aspects that are hard. So of course it is. But is it worth doing? I think so. I think the rewards and the benefits are so vast, it's almost a joke when you think about the small amount of time, money, energy you need to invest to get those returns. So let's talk about the real you. When you make a statement like, I am happy, or I am unhappy, what exactly do you mean by that? What exactly is this I that is happy or sad? What do you really mean when you say, I am happy, or I am sad, or I am angry, or I am afraid? Here's what you're probably really meaning. These statements are nothing more than descriptions of the balance of certain chemicals in the brain. And quite simply, if we can put the right set of chemicals into your brain, you could make yourself instantly feel anything you want. Happy, sad, angry, peaceful, anxious, grateful, or anything in between. And while that may sound appealing, you can run into a lot of problems with it. This is why in our society so many of us struggle with addictions. We find ways through gambling or sex or drinking or drugs or food, all these different creative ways of finding temporary psychological inflation. So we find a lever we pull that makes us happy for a short time, and then it goes away. And then we go back and pull the lever again, and again and again and again. And at some point, it stops working, and then you're trapped in addiction. There's actually been scientific research that has shown that our emotions are what happens to us. Certain chemicals are present in the right amounts in our brain. It really is that simple. So when you're actually saying, I am happy, I am sad, or whatever, what is the I? What is the I that's happy or sad? Well, here's a hint. The I is not actually you. It is your brain. And you are more than your brain. And of course you know that you're more than your brain. At minimum, you should include the rest of your body, right? But that's not how we act. It's like the old joke. Oh, you look angry. No, I'm not angry. Really? Nobody told your face. That's what's going on in our lives. Of course you know that you're more than your brain. But how we think about it, how we act, how we speak about it, betrays the truth. That when you say, I am happy or I am sad, what you're really just saying is there's a certain amount of chemicals flowing or not flowing in my brain in this moment. So you are not your brain. There is a brain, for sure, right? But you are greater than that. And the brain is one aspect of what we might call the ego mind or the false I. It's what you thought you were, but is not actually you. That's the trap we fall into. And this is sometimes called identification with the false I. In other words, what you think you are is different than what you actually are. And the brain is just one aspect of what we might call the ego or the ego mind or the false I. That's what you thought you were. That's what you've spent your whole life thinking you are, but it's not actually you. That's the problem. So what exactly is this ego? Well, it's simple. The ego is what defines you as somehow separate or distinct from everything else in the universe that is not you. So that's the ego. And to find the real you, to break through this barrier of consciousness, to live as the vehicle, to find contentment and joy and purpose, even when circumstances are not ideal. The first step is giving up on this misunderstanding of the false you. The real you cannot be clearly defined or understood using our conventional language and paradigms. If it could, awakening would be easy. It's not. And so to help you find the real you, often the best first step is by exploring and clearly calling out the ego and what is not you. And so I like to teach a 3-level model for the ego. And of course, you could come up with a more sophisticated model. Let's keep it real simple for now. Most of us have 3 levels of ego: the mind, the body, and the spirit. For most of us in the modern world, if I really pressed you to define what is you, what somehow separates you from everything else in the universe that is not you, most of us would say that what we are is some combination of a body, right? Because you got a body, there it is, right? And a mind, because you got a mind, clearly, right? And a soul, or some kind of eternal spirit that reincarnates or goes to heaven or hell, or however you want to think about that. So the body is the physical ego. It's the physical aspect of you, because I got a body and you got a body and that guy over there has a body, right? If I go bang my head into the wall, your head doesn't hurt. So clearly there's some relative level of separation. Your body, my body, his body, right? Same thing with our minds. If I read a book, you don't get the knowledge, right? Of course not. So clearly we have separate minds, and even the soul has separation, because I got a soul and you got a soul and that lady over there has a soul, and they are in some way distinct or different or separate. And so here's the point. None of these is the real you. These are all aspects of the ego mind, the false I. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny portion of the real you. The trouble is, most of us are conditioned in our lives to think that we are the ego. Maybe you think you're a body, or maybe you think you're a mind, or maybe you think you're a soul, or some combination of the 3. None of them can actually be the real you. Why do we know that? It's simple. All of our greatest spiritual teachers throughout history from all over the world have delivered a common message. They have told us that we are all one. There is no separation in the highest truth. But when we look for ourselves, mostly we just see the ego. You only see your mind, your body, your bank account, your family, your emotions. And when you do that, you start judging yourself. You start judging you based on these aspects of the ego. Oh, I'm not good enough because I'm too short or too tall or too old or too young or too rich or too poor or too fat or too thin. Or my skin is the wrong color, or I grew up on the wrong side of town, or I don't have a good enough education, or I don't know enough about this or that, or I don't have personality. You name it, right? None of that is the real you. And if you're judging you based on just these measurable aspects of the ego, that's a really hard game to win. Almost impossible. It would be like you looked at a masterpiece painting, but only saw a tiny little fraction of it in the corner, but you thought it was the whole painting. So go take the Mona Lisa and look at just one tiny, tiny little fraction of a corner of it. It won't be that impressive, will it? You'd be like, hey, what's the big deal with this picture? Why is it revered as a great masterpiece? Why is it worth tens of millions of dollars? Who cares? It's a little splotch of blue. Well, you're missing the big picture, right? You're only looking at a tiny little piece of the whole. If you could see the entire picture, you would get it. You go, oh, I see why this is such a great masterpiece. This is amazing. But this is the trouble we have. We've been convinced that we're something that's different than we're not. We've been trained to think we're just this tiny little piece of something that's so much greater. It would be similar to judging an entire album or a whole song based on one note. So, do you ever look at your life and think that you're a loser or a failure or a disappointment or not good enough or not smart enough? These are all signs you've been living trapped inside the ego, and it's not your fault. Remember, you can never be expected to know something that no one has ever shown you, that you never had an opportunity to learn. But this is changing right now. Here's the good news. You are not your brain. You are not your body. You are not your mind. You are not your personality or your history or your family or your memories or your emotions or your career or your bank account or your name. You are none of those things. But if you spend your life identified with them, if you think that's all there is to you, you're missing the vast majority of you. You're judging the entire song by one note. And so what is the real you? Well, here's the tricky thing. There's not just one you, there's actually at least three. So I call it the three-layer cake. And when you can let go of the concept that there's only one you, you actually make space in your mind for a higher truth to sink in. So what are the three layers of you? There is the little you. That's what we call the ego mind. That's what you might call the mind in the body, the bank account, the personality. That's the human being, the man, the woman. That's just the little you. That's the lowest layer of you. It's real, right? The body is real. The mind is real. Your bank account is real. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying that you are greater than any of those things. All of those things are a tiny aspect of you, but not the whole thing. So the little you is the ego. What you thought you were, right? The man, the woman, the bank account, the career, the name. That's not actually you. It's just a tiny piece of it. Then we move to the middle you, the middle layer of this cake. That's what we might call the spiritual ego. That's what you might call the soul or the higher self or the spirit. It transcends space and time. It transcends one lifetime. It existed before you were born, and it will continue to exist after you die. So that's kind of the middle layer of the cake, is this eternal aspect of you, but that is still separate. Then there's big you. This is the biggest layer. Big you, real you, is simply all that is and all that isn't. It's what we call God, Creator, Source, Spirit. There is nothing that is not you. You are the here, the there, and the space in the middle. And it's important that we realize that all three layers have their place. The top layer of the cake, the smallest one, the ego mind, is easiest to see. But it is extremely small and honestly kind of insignificant, at least in relation to everything else in the universe that is not the little you, right? And next time you get full of yourself, I'm going to offer a little bit of science here to put the ego back in its place. I love the show Cosmos. I watched the original version back in the 70s with Carl Sagan, and I love the new one with Neil deGrasse Tyson. On the show, they have this wonderful idea of the cosmic calendar. What it means is this: if we took all of history, starting with the creation of the universe, the Big Bang, and we say that the Big Bang was just after midnight on January 1st, and right now is midnight on December 31st, if the entirety of the history of the universe were compressed into 1 year, then, for example, 1 month would be about 1.2 billion years. A day on the cosmic calendar is about 40 million years. An hour is about 1.5 million years. A minute is about 30,000 years. And 1 second on the cosmic calendar is 500 years. So on this cosmic calendar, the solar system, including the Earth and our sun, were formed sometime in July. The dinosaurs showed up on December 26th and died off on December 30th. And we humans only showed up about the last 6 minutes before midnight on December 31st. So on this cosmic calendar, all of human history, not just recorded history, but unrecorded history, back when we lived in the jungles and on the plains, closer to the animals, is just 6 minutes. Most of our modern civilization fits into just the last second. So are you feeling small yet? Good. It's important because the little you, the ego mind, is small and relatively insignificant, at least on a cosmic scale. Okay then, this is one of the reasons you might have been so unhappy. What you thought was you is in fact just a tiny, almost unimaginably small fraction of the real you. But even the tiny piece of you is remarkable. It really is. Even the ego mind, even the body, the human brain is a remarkable, wonderful thing. Here's another little science fact. If you ever think you're a loser or a failure or never accomplished anything, did you know that for every one of us that is alive on Earth right now, 8 billion or whatever the number is, if we look at all the possible combinations in our DNA, all the possible humans that could be here, that for every one of us that is here, the number of alternative people that is not here outnumber the grains of sand in the entire Sahara Desert. So the chance of you even being here on Earth, even for a short time, is roughly on par with the probability of winning a multi-million-dollar jackpot every week for an entire year. That's huge. So whatever else you may think is bad about you, you overcame unimaginably difficult odds simply to exist at all. Out of the 1.5 quadrillion other people you could have been, God chose you to be here, with all your flaws and defects, with all the mistakes you've made. And I say this because even the smallest aspect of you is incredibly cherished and loved. We just have to get out of our heads and see the truth of what we really are. As small and insignificant as the mind and body are, it is an incredible accomplishment simply to be alive. Again, the divine chose you and me and all the people around us to be here, out of thousands of quadrillions of other options. So keep that in mind. Next time your ego gets inflated and you get full of yourself, remind yourself of how small we actually are. And next time you're down on yourself, remind yourself of how remarkable and special it is that you were chosen to exist. That should keep you connected to the truth. So next, let's talk about middle you. The middle you is what we may call the spirit, the soul, the higher self. It is beyond time and space. It includes all of the little yous, all of your incarnations, all of the different little yous that you chose to place at different points in the space-time continuum. And it's interesting, did you know that the amount of your soul that fits in your body is just a tiny fraction, much less than 1%? So most of you, middle you at least, doesn't even fit in your body. Only a tiny little bit of middle you can fit into the body. The rest of you is living all your lifetimes, not only on this planet, but in others across the galaxy and the universe, as well as being in the parallel and higher dimensions. So there's all sorts of little yous, hundreds, thousands, millions, I don't know what the exact number is, that are all projections of the middle you. So we are so much more than just what we see in the mirror. But the fact remains that even if you can start to identify with the middle you, you're on the right track. You are getting closer to the truth, but you're not done yet. So let's talk about big you. This is the real you. This is what's actually in your head. You are all that is. You are God. You are the creator. You are the source of everything. You are everything that is and everything that is not. You are the Holy Trinity. You are not only here and there, you are also the space in the middle. This is hard to think about, so I want to share with you one of my favorite teaching models. It's the idea of a balloon animal. And you may have seen a balloon animal at a county fair or whatever, right? You got some guy, he has some balloons and he twists it, and then, oh my gosh, it looks like a dog, right? Or it looks like a horse or whatever. Well, here's the thing. You are that balloon. That is God, that is source, that is the entire universe. But when you take it and twist it and shape it, it looks like a specific thing. So you take nothing and you twist it and shape it and fold it, and you get stars and planets and galaxies and people and animals. So ultimately, we are a giant folded nothing. The whole universe is a giant folded nothing. That is the essence of the divine, of God. But from that nothing becomes everything. But just like the balloon animal, you can untwist it and it becomes a balloon again. So if you take the whole universe and untwist it and unfold it, you have God back again. So you are everything. You are the balloon and the animal at the same time. Because the real you is actually the void from which it comes. It is the nothing, the true silence from which erupted the entire universe. So again, I get it if you don't totally understand this the first time. This is big stuff to wrap your head around. But this is where you need to go to get to the highest levels of contentment and happiness. And I hope you can start to see how pretty much all of your negative self-thoughts are in fact based on misunderstandings. Whenever you think, I'm a loser, I'm a failure, I'm not good enough, any of that drama, what you're really thinking could be correctly restated as, a nearly infinitely small portion of me has been judged by an outdated computer to be a loser or a failure or not good enough. That's what the thought really is. It's not the truth. It's simply the judgment of an outdated computer of a tiny, 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 unimaginably small piece of you. You are not what you've spent your life thinking you are. And this is the key insight, the beginning of awakening, that can lead you to a far greater happiness than any of our limited minds could ever have imagined possible. And so, again, full awakening is a big job. It's like learning a language or learning an instrument. It doesn't happen all at once. It takes practice and time and teaching and feedback. And you can get there. But this is a huge step forward. If you're really interested in awakening, I'm not going to talk a lot more about it, a little bit in the 7th program, but you can go to my 30 Days to Awakening, my program End of Suffering, or even better, join us for one of my free healathons or come to one of the Secrets for Higher Dimensional Living weekend intensives, and we're going to give you a lot of awakening. My goal is to help fully wake you up so that you never have to suffer again and you can be happier anytime, anywhere, any place for the entire rest of your life and beyond. That's all I got to say for now. This is Brent Michael Phillips signing off of Section 5 of our lecture presentation programs in 7 Steps to Happiness. And I hope I'll be back very soon to guide you through the block clearing program or see you for lecture presentation number 6. And until then, goodbye, take care, and namaste.
I am Brent Michael Phillips signing off. We got lots more cool videos in this series I know you're going to love. I know they're going to blow your mind. So click like, click subscribe, check out the playlist, and I will see you on the other side. Until then, take care and namaste.